Welcome back to Terpy, back with another video in the grow tent room. Today's video, we're gonna go over the clones that I have re-vegging behind me. All pretty much re-veg. We'll take a quick look at that, and they're starting to put out some vegetative growth. Also, you'll notice behind me that there's no more plants in the grow tents. Unfortunately, I did have a mistake at the end of the previous video, which we're gonna go over in this video. We're gonna be setting up the Pulse Hub, along with a few more sensors from Pulse, and introducing you guys to the new Pulse Zero, which is their newest product that was just released on their website. I'll get all this cabling and different sensors organized and laid out onto the floor so you guys can see exactly how the Pulse Hub works in an environment like we have right now. As for our clones over here, I did move them all under this single light here. Unfortunately, when I did water these plants after the transplanting, two mistakes happened, which were very vital to the health of these plants. One, I watered the plants with the nutrient mix, but as I did that before I left the building for the day, I had forgot to pH the water. So the next time I checked the water, the pH level was at 7.0, which is far too high for any type of plant at all, let alone freshly transplanted clones. So that was the first mistake. And the second mistake was these grow bags are the same exact grow bags that I use in the commercial facility, just with a lot more growing medium in them. So when I did water these plants, I had forgot to poke the holes in the bottom of these grow bags. So when I did water them, all the water sat in here and absorbed everywhere. So we had oversaturated growing medium with the wrong pH, which caused not only overwatering, but also nutrient lockout, causing some serious health issues with all these plants. I think I'm gonna end up losing over half these plants. I did order these strains over again, so in a couple weeks I will have replacements, but unfortunately it's going to be quite a setback for this grow space. As you guys know, I'm not afraid to show my mistakes and how we can improve on this in the future. So I have them all moved under here just so I can save some energy on the lights while they recover. And then over the next couple days, whatever plants don't recover, we'll remove and get rid of, and we'll move on from this situation. Over here on the re-veg plants, we do see some curling of the clones that aren't doing so well, but they are re-vegging. As you can see here, we'll zoom in a little bit. All that is fresh vegetative growth. You can see right in the center, that's where the flowers used to be, and vegetative growth is the green leaf popping out of that. It's pretty much on all the strains here now, so very happy to see that. Here's another one. Not going to go over all of them, but these are labeled clones that we have going on, and then these two trays are plants that we don't know which strain is which we will send to flower once they're done the re-veg stage, and then we will figure out which strain is which, since I do know the different types of strains that are here. Our environment in here is around 80 degrees Fahrenheit and 70% relative humidity. Tell you guys a little bit about my environment situation in here. We're running a 2-ton AC system. No dehumidifiers in here. The way we are controlling the humidity in here is we have a electric heater here hooked up to a humidity controller. I have it set to 72% relative humidity. It's currently 67 right there. So anytime we need the humidity to go down in this room, the heater gets kicked on, which heats up the room slightly, which turns on our air conditioning, and that is what does the dehumidification in the room while holding the steady temperature with our heater. Since the air coming out of the air conditioning is cooler, the heater will offset that and keep our temperatures at the set points that are needed. We got each of the 3 grow tents all cleaned out, and the plants moved over to where you saw previously. Our CO2, I should probably turn it off now that our plants aren't doing too healthy, but it is set to 600 ppm in here. Just because I'm in here, it's around 800 or 900 ppm. The 2 different sensors are slightly off, about 100 ppm difference. I'm gonna have to calibrate one of these. I will determine which one is off by looking at our pulse environmental monitors here. since I do know all three of these are calibrated exactly the same. So when these three are confirmed, what the ppm level is in here, then we can adjust these Inkbird CO2 controllers, because these are much lower quality sensors. So we will adjust everything to match what the pulse sensors operate at. Over here, we do have a selection of different pulse sensors. We've got the new Pulse 0, which is pretty much the exact same as the Pulse 1. It just does not have the battery backup, making it much more price affordable for anybody willing to enter the market and want to put this product into your growing space. Then we have the next step up, which is the Pulse Pro. It has the PPFD sensor, the par meter, so we can set our light intensity perfectly for each stage of growth of our plants. It also has a CO2 sensor built in, so that's a little bit of an upgrade from the Pulse 1. And then our next step up is the Pulse Hub. This will eventually be able to have controls built into it, but currently it's just a monitor, also just like these ones. There's no controls right now, but Pulse is incorporating a control feature in the near future for this one. The Hub is more for multiple grow spaces, or you can use it just on a single grow space. Once I have all these sensors all untangled and set up, we'll go over what I have here. The yellow wires and these prongs is the moisture content sensor and EC levels for your growing medium. And then down here we have a pH sensor and also a EC sensor in there. And then the final sensor in here is this one, which is the THV. But we'll go over that once I get it all unpacked. So we'll jump into that currently. Okay, so I got the Pulse Hub all laid out behind me on the floor to show you guys exactly how this setup works and how simple it is and how versatile it is. No matter what your grow space is like, it's very simple to adjust all these sensors and spacing to what fits your grow space perfectly. So let's go over from the beginning where this Pulse Hub starts. So we got our Pulse Hub laid out here, which is right beside the entrance. So all you need is the power cord. And then right off that, we're using an extension cable that goes off the Pulse Hub to our first tee, which is where our sensors connect to. Every tee you put in this daisy chain line, you use a tee to go to your sensor. So right now I have it set up where we'll have two reservoirs right here for watering our plants. One of the reservoirs will be our main one where we'll have our pH and EC sensors incorporated into, so we can monitor what exactly our plants are getting and our nutrient levels along with the pH. So we can connect both tees together like that, or if you would like, you can put a tee on each end of the cable to space out your sensors. For my situation, I like to put the sensors right next to each other. Since the reservoirs are right next to each other, there's no reason to put in an extra cable. So continuing on through our daisy chain to reach our first grow space, which is the open area grow space, we have a cable here just to bring our cable from around this area behind the grow tent into the corner, where we'll have our next two sensors with our T's connected right there. Every THV sensor, which is our humidity, temperature, and vapor pressure deficit sensor, I like to incorporate an extension cable, allowing me to extend from the T to the sensor. And then since the cable on the sensors isn't super long, it allows me to go from the floor up to the top of the grow space into the center of the grow tent area, and then drop the sensor down into the center, exactly where you want to get your environmental readings from. So that's how I set up every single THV sensor. Currently, I don't have enough of these extension cables, which are currently in the mail for this layout, but that's an example of how I do the THV sensors. And then we have our water content / EC sensor for our growing medium. This just goes right into the side of our growing medium into any plant that you want to take your reading from. I personally use one per grow tent space. So that goes into our second tee right there. And then continuing on through our extension cable here. And then we have a second extension cable, just because I have shorter ones here. They do offer these extension cables in much longer lengths. I think there's 3 different varieties to choose from. That allows us to go around the grow tent space and into our next grow tent or grow space, which is our clone rack. Over here, I have just a single T to go off our extension cable and to the next extension cable, allowing us to connect our THV sensor, giving our temperature and vapor pressure deficit and relative humidity for this space currently. Then we have 2 extension cables bringing us from behind the clone rack to all the way between the 2 4x4 grow tents that we have located right here. That allows us to use a different option that they have, which is a T, which has a 6-way T in it. This allows me to put this right at the back of the grow tent space back there, allowing us to continuing on our daisy chain, but also connect our THV sensor and water content sensor to the first 2 ports, and then we have another THV sensor and water content sensor for the next 2 ports. That allows us to have 2 sensors for here, 2 sensors for here, all in one central location, making it very easy to route the cabling, and everything's centralized and clean looking. Again, we use a extension cable in between the T and the THV sensor of each of those. I need to get one more extra one of these, which is in the mail like I previously said. Going across the daisy chain, we do have another T with a THV sensor. This is for our space back here right beside the door to the exterior, allowing me to take a reading of what the environment might be outside and how it's affecting this inside grow space. So I think that's pretty important at any entrance or exit to have a sensor there, which might affect the growing environment inside the grow tents. It might not be much, but it's extra data that you can analyze if needed in the future. Going along with our next extension cable, this is the end of my line in my grow tent space. So we have a single T, which will get connected there. We have our THV sensor connected to here, and to terminate the daisy chaining line, we end it with our water content sensor for our grow tent right here. Overall, I think that's pretty simple setup and super clean once it's all tucked behind all the grow spaces and routed perfectly, so we can have our sensors dangling right in the center of each of the growing spaces. Don't mind the mess on the ground. I will be cleaning this up once I get rid of some of these bad plants in here, but overall I think that's a good explanation for you guys to see exactly how the Pulse Hub is set up in the grow tent space in here. We will be doing a breakdown of another install where I'll be incorporating this into the commercial facility into all the grow spaces over there. If you want to take a look at the Pulse products, you can go over to the Pulse website and also use the discount code Terpy on any of the Pulse branded products that they have available on their website. So let me get this all installed into the grow tent spaces and cleaned up, and then we'll take a look at how it looks finally installed. Okay, so I just finished up putting in the Pulse Hub system into all the different grow areas and the sensors that are connected to that. So let's take a quick look at all of that. Okay, so we're gonna start off where the Pulse Hub is. This is where I stopped installing. I actually started installing everything from the end of the daisy chaining all the way around the room until the beginning. This way I knew exactly which cables I need left, and this is the most accessible area for those cables. So that's why I chose to go in that direction of installing everything. I still need to get 2 more extension cables to complete the system, but we will install this Pulse Hub right here, right below the plug. That way I can power it right there. Then we'll have an extension cable that goes from the Pulse Hub down and then connects to our daisy chain, which is right here with our 2 T's for our EC and pH sensors for our reservoir. It continues behind the open growing area where we have 2 T's. We'll zoom in right there. One for the water content sensor for the growing medium, and one for the THV sensor located over there on the side of the pole to give us an accurate reading of this growing environment. The daisy chaining cable continues behind the CO2 tanks, continues to the end of the cloning rack. It tees off goes directly up, and currently I just have the THV sensor up here located right next to the CO2 sensor, the humidity sensor, along with our temperature and humidity sensor, which is located right here. That area just gives us a general idea of what the entire room environment is. We will locate those better after. I do have this piece of wood and piece of foam here. This is to block any air conditioning air directly coming out of there and going directly onto the plants. Not much gets to this area, but I just wanted it for reassurance so the small clones aren't taking a blasting of cold air right out of the air conditioning. So continuing on, it goes behind the grow tent along, and right around this area is where we have our 6-way T, which handles our water content sensors in both tents, along with the THV sensor located in the center, hanging in both of the tents also. This is really the most basics that you would need to completely dial in your environment, both the air and the growing medium. So that's why I like going with the 1 water content sensor per tent. Obviously, the more of those sensors you have, the better chance of all the plants being even and perfectly watered and there are levels of nutrients in there for a happy plant. Those sensors are pretty expensive, so 1 per grow space is more than enough, I found, for a grow tent. Moving on, we have the daisy chaining continuing behind the grow tent, where we have another THV sensor here right next to the door in case we have any high temperatures that are coming in from the exterior into the interior. We can see the difference of this temperature being right next to the door compared to one that's closer in to the center of the room, or even in the back corner where we have one over there. So continuing on, it continues right to the back of this grow tent, where it tees in for our water content sensor at the bottom for our growing medium, and again a THV sensor right in the center of the grow tent, and that's where it terminates. Later on, I still haven't decided, maybe I'll put the 2 reservoirs over here and we'll switch the table over here, but that's for a later date. I'm still not sure exactly which setup I want to do. It's not really a big deal right now, as it's pretty much the same if it goes on either side of the door. I don't know how long this video was, but I hope you guys enjoyed the little update of the grow tents along with the Pulse Hub complete install of everything. Hopefully that gave you a good overview if you're thinking of deciding on getting the Pulse Hub for your grow space. Over the next grow series or 2 in this space, we will definitely go over all the charts and how this data is very important to having a successful grow. So until next time, happy growing everyone, and remember to get it there and make it happen.